All right. Next item, item E, to discuss and act upon the recent issues with town hall computers and the purchase of new computers. So now, Ted, we will be getting more information about that subject. One of the things I got a lot of phone calls and emails about was on Primary Day last week. There was a huge problem here at Town Hall with computers on Primary Day. Fortunately for our IT guy, Kyle, he was able to address the issue that day, but of course, it was one of those unexpected circumstances that took a lot of scurrying around, a lot of work on his part, but he was able to get it done. So, I'm very happy to hear that, but it's also something that's not the first time we've had this happen. It's also not the first time we've talked about computers needing to be upgraded. We talked about it actually at great length during budget season. Remember, Kyle spoke about it during budget season. So the issue that happened on Primary Day with having computer issues and also affecting getting information out to the Secretary of State's office, that's what one of the registrars have told me, that's a huge problem and not something that we want to see keep repeating itself, especially with Election Day coming up in November, but really not just in relation to elections, but any day of business here at the Town Hall. We don't want to have to be turning people away to say, sorry, you have to come back some other time because our computers are down, or any other issue along that line with the computers. So it is a problem, and it's something that we need to discuss and find out some more information on. So I invited Kyle Collins here tonight to discuss it.
Again, because take these. This is what I'm suggesting that we get.
Thank you.
The rest of you guys want, I have made some extras, you can pass them around and look at them. Okay.
Extra one.
Yeah, just take one and pass it around. We had a real bad problem on Election Day. We had 2 hard drives go down in 2 different QNAPs. QNAPs is an array of hard drives that runs the town hall through the servers. What I'm suggesting we get is a new Vertex system from Dell. It's not the Cadillac of computers and servers. It's a good, solid computer though. But we need about $48,000 to do this. I'm still having issues with, come January, Windows 7 will no longer be supported. We have about 9 computers left. I know we've gotten some. We've got the tax collector set, we have the assessor set, WPCA is all set, animal control is all set, but we still need more computers. And if we go with this Vertex system, we'll be able to use what's called a thin client workstation. Instead of spending a lot of money on a workstation that needs a lot of resources to run the software, we're gonna put the software into the servers and they're gonna be remoting into the server. So they won't need a huge 500 gigabyte hard drive on their workstation. They won't need a lot of RAM in it. It's gonna be just like surfing on a website and it's gonna be very fast. I get a lot of complaints now that everything's very slow here at the town hall and my hands are tied. I mean, it is what the equipment is. We're using Generation 12 stuff, which is technology from 2012. Generation 14 is what we're using now, and that was from 2017. So very shortly, Generation 15 is going to be coming out, and we're going to be behind the 8 ball again. The software is getting more and more complex, and our equipment just cannot handle it. We have very little. My budget is mostly unfunded mandates from the federal government, the state government, and I got cut $30,000. I came begging for more money, and then on top of that, I got cut $30,000, and 27 of that was for computers for the town hall. So I don't expect everybody to understand all that stuff that I put in that letter. But if anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Did the Board
Yes,
of
Dan.
Finance?
Just really quick, you tried Newegg.com? Oh, I love that site.
Dan, hold off on that.
No, that was it.
Ted.
Did the Board of Finance cut that 27,000? You said you had cut.
was 30,000 that was.
30,000, did the Board of Finance cut the $30,000
I'm not sure
from
who
your
cut
request?
it. I just know it was cut.
Probably happened from when the budget got cut, would be my guess.
Pardon
When
me?
the budget got voted down,
It was part of
it was part of the budget cuts after that.
I don't think so. It seems to me that Travis Hines and I made a motion and seconded it, that there would be no cuts in that area.
It must have been before that, this is part, then I have to been before that.
Well, I just know, I'm not sure if we cut it.
Yeah. Kathy, do you have any recollection about when that was cut?
I don't, but I can go back and look.
All right.
Yeah, I'm not pointing fingers on who cut it. It just got cut. It doesn't matter who cut it, it was cut.
Well, I was under the impression that you had more than enough money for the year.
Oh, no.
So
You guys talked about
it matters
giving.
to me how,
Oh, no.
why would I cut it and think,
So,
No, as a matter of fact, we talked, when I submitted my original budget,
Right.
you guys asked how much it would cost to bring everything up to snuff, including the police station, and I said another 55. So technically, I'm losing 85 this year. Because we did talk about giving me the 55 on top of what I submitted. Now, it's 2 years in a row that I've been cut. I had a nice program going where 25% of the workstations were replaced each year, so nothing was more than 4 years old. Every 4 years, I'd get 25%. And that way, it keeps a nice steady budget instead of getting hammered in 1 year. You know, you get these 130, 130, 130, okay, now we need 250. That's not the way to run it,
Just
in
to
my
give
opinion.
a historical context, so in FY '18, your budget was 148,000. FY '19, it was cut to 125,000. And then, for this current fiscal year, it was brought back up to 150. I think what you're talking about is the initial request that you had at the beginning of the budget cycle for FY '20. You had requested 180, and we, from the previous year,
That sounds right.
125. And then we brought it back up to 150.
So we kept it
Thank you.
flat.
We kept it flat from
Right.
two previous fiscal years.
Right,
So
but we didn't buy
did
any,
increase.
but we didn't buy any workstations.
Correct.
Right. And Ted,
And also-
sorry. Okay.
There's a lot of unfunded mandates, and they just keep going up and up and up.
Okay. Right, we voted on that, we not touch that one, we did the budget, right?
that's my recollection.
But why would you do?
Well, my recollection was, I remember when he was talking about that 55, that we talked like, what would you need? We had asked him at that Board of Finance, what would you need? It was around 55. I remember we talked about that we could vote on that to come from the fund balance, but I don't believe we actually did.
No, I don't think
It
that.
never happened.
Yeah, we just discussed it and then moved on with the rest of the budget season, so it never happened, so. That's why when this came up again, it made me think back to that, of like, yeah, we have talked about this as far as that.
And I still, I mean, I put that out at 48 and a half. I'm still working on it. There may be some other avenues where I can get stuff a little cheaper. I plan on buying the chassis for this used. Chassis is a chassis. It's the stuff that's in it. We'll go with new processors, new hard drives, new RAM. But, I mean, we can save a little bit of money by buying used chassis.
So what kind of action are you looking for from us tonight?
I want you guys to think about this, and if you want to table it for a month, that's fine. I can come up with some more hard numbers for you guys. I can be very specific.
I know you have mandates. Is there funds out there, grants, something like that? Just like the police department got a grant to upgrade, and we discussed that at length.
Well, actually, all the body cams and all the backups of body cams and all that, that was all done through grants. We do try to get grants. That's
Can we
what
do that with our system here? Is there anything?
I can look into it.
I mean,
We're
if
kinda
we get
behind the eight-
$5,000, well, guess what, that's $5,000.
We're behind the eight ball. No, I know.
Oh, I get it, but we pay
There
for
are
stuff
little
up
grants, there are
front,
little grants out there. I'm
Yeah.
sure we can look for some.
you know, get some money, we pay for it up front.
I agree.
Get
Anytime we
reimbursed
get
for
some
that.
grants, we're gonna get some grants.
Yeah.
But right now, I mean, we are behind the eight ball here. Yeah, I mean, the system could go down tomorrow. Or it could last another 2 years, very slow.
Looking for a
So-
motion?
Yeah, what we can do, and of course, I'm still gonna put the opportunity out for any other questions or comments, but what we can do is, like he said, we can table this and we can revisit this next month and ask for more information, such as about grants, if we want to do that. Or if we don't want to, because we know time, as time ticks away, you know, the system is getting older and possibly can compromise, we can also make the decision tonight. It's up to us, obviously, as a body to decide what we want to do with this item.
I'll make a motion to appropriate $48,000.
Hold on, before that, you had one thing.
Yeah, so I think it was discussed last meeting, I don't know if you said it, Ron, and I don't know who came to this, but do we have to buy new software for the finance department this coming year? 2020?
It's not, it hasn't been decided as to when that's gonna be, but it's definitely, we're definitely operating on an antiquated software. Our accounting software is well beyond what's being, what's acceptable. And I don't know exactly when that's gonna happen though. I can't say right now it's gonna happen this fiscal year. We do know that the Board of Ed is out on a bid and they're in the process of trying to replace their software. We're waiting to see what happens with them. That should happen at the end of the month, at the end of the calendar year. We also want to see what the audit says in terms of our internal controls and how proficient the system is. And that's part of the audit. They should tell us exactly how efficient and how productive our time is being used as a result of the software that we're using. So there are two things that we're waiting on to see, and I don't know if any of those decisions are going to have an impact on us to act as quickly as within that 6-month period for FY20.
So if they buy this, can we buy licenses off of this? So we have the same software? Is that possible, Ron? If you're looking, whatever system you're looking at, can the town buy the same licenses at a cheaper rate?
Well, I don't know if it'd be a cheaper rate.
Well, but I'm saying, you must be buying a package and then per license must cost a separate
Exactly.
amount, right?
Yes.
That being said, it also is in our best interest to try and solicit vendors for this particular criteria. It would be, and I think I said this last month, it would be ideal for us to, from a talent perspective, from a skills perspective, to have as many people on the same system within the town to trade secrets, to give ideas on how to make their office operate a little bit more efficiently. But that doesn't necessarily mean that their system is best for us. We're a much smaller operation than them, therefore we may need something that's a little bit smaller, probably to get it possibly cheaper. It would be in our best interest to send out a solicitation and try and see what else is out there, in addition to considering the vendor that they choose.
Yeah, I'm just asking because, again, I bought software before and you pay $50,000, say, for the software, but then each license may only be $500 a piece. So to me, if you can tag onto their software and only pay $500 for all the licenses you need, that would be the ideal situation, and then split the money between the BOE and the town.
That's not that's not beyond the possibility of happening. It's just a matter of cutting ourselves short by not looking at other options and possibly getting something even cheaper if it's out there. We should look at the least we should look, and we've got a lot of time to do that.
Are you out to bid right now, Ron?
Actually, Learn is the one that put out the RFP. There were 11 districts in the region that use the SunGuard Phoenix software, which is running out as of June 30, 2020. So Learn put the RFP together, and they had 9 people respond, and they've cut it down to the 3 top vendors, one being e-finance through SunGuard, Infinite Vision, and Alio. We're not familiar with Alio. On the 23rd, we're going down to East Lyme to learn, to see the presentation from those 3 vendors.
When does the Board of Ed expect to make a decision?
I haven't presented the information to them yet because we're still in that
But I'm
process.
saying, is it 3 months, 4 months?
Oh, no, we want to move on this as fast as possible. I would say within 2 months.
Okay.
And just on that same subject, Ron, remember last month when you ran into that glitch with the reporting
Yes.
of our finance, and you gave us disclosure that the reason why this is going to be off of it is because, but is that in any way because of the old accounting system, or is that a separate issue?
Yeah, to put it simply, yes. The system could be a lot more user-friendly. Right now, we're dependent on several variables, and we shouldn't have to depend on right now, to put it simply.
Okay. All right, so any other, just want to make sure, any other questions for Kyle?
I would like to make one more statement before we put something presented. I wanna,
Yep.
do you have hard and fast numbers? Did you go out and do a quote? Are you doing the work? Or are you quoting this out and have somebody else install?
I'm
You or assist at least.
gonna do all the hardware work, and Protocol Networks is gonna do some of the implementation.
So do you have hard quotes on these, or is this just kind
Well,
of
that's why I said
together what you
I can get you hard numbers, but I need more time. It's just
understand? And that's why I would like hard numbers, you know, we transfer 48 and he needs 58. He's still short, he's gonna come back, he needs 40, or we say 48,
I
and he
really
needs
want-
20.
I can validate Kyle's sourcing methods. I've worked in IT procurement for a long time. I understand what he does and how he utilizes funds in an effort to make sure that everybody's operating at least a minimum capacity. And him and I have worked together, and he's shown me some of the things that he does in terms of sourcing goods, especially IT goods. So I have full faith in him that he'll meet that $48,000.
By getting the used chassis, that made me keep it under 50. I was really trying to keep it under 50 as much as I could. And I don't like buying used stuff, but a chassis is a chassis is a chassis.
Yes.
You know, it's like a light bulb fixture.
Yeah.
It's the bulb that makes it work, not the fixture.
Yeah, I would hate to
All
allocate
new,
funds
all new
and
guns.
be wrong.
No, there are a number of ways to source these goods. I mean, you've got various, you have the state bid website, you got the federal bid website. There are definitely ways.
When you bid, it's an actual bid or these quotes?
Well, state and federal quotes. GSA, federal government bid website, it's a quote. They give you a list of items that they have at a specific price, as does the state.
Yeah.
IT is a bit more specific as well.
We'll piggyback on a state bid through DAS or through the federal government, which is GSA. Chad knows a lot
So
about
there-
this, so he's a computer guy,
There-
and he did come talk to us a little while back and gave us some more information on some GSA stuff, and I was on his site most of the day today, trying to work my numbers.
IT procurement on state website, government websites are very specific. You're not gonna get a range of, or an idea in terms of specifications as to what you're gonna get. You're gonna get exact items off of those websites. And searching those to find the best price, or even service, is definitely part of the process in terms of making sure we get the best cost.
Another thing with DAS and GSA, let's just say they ask for bids on a Dell Optiplex 960, okay? And they give that bid in January for $1,000. Come October, that's obsolete. I can buy that now for $700.
Of course.
So I'm gonna get it cheaper from a vendor than I will from the DAS site, and it's just the nature of the beast. Computers, they just become obsolete so quick.
They outpace themselves quickly.
Yeah, so I mean, I always try to get the best price I possibly can.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so what is the feeling of the board as far as, again, we can hold off before we get until we have more concrete information and numbers, or again, could make a motion tonight?
I would be more comfortable if we allocate the money so he can go forward. And, but still, because he's not gonna, no funds are gonna be exchanged until we have quotes or RFPs or whatever in front of us. But if he doesn't know that he can do it, then if it's that dire, you can't put him on hold for a month. So he's gotta at least know he's got X amount of dollars to expend. And then, to your point, if he has to, then he's gonna have to come back for more.
Possibly. But he'll
But
know better at that point.
right, and if he ends up needing only 40, then only 40 comes out of the fund anyway, so what's the difference? You know what I mean? Even though we tell him he's gonna have 48, if he only spends 40, he only gets 40, it's not like Kyle
Right,
gets,
I'm not gonna
it's not like
try
Kyle
to
gets
spend
$8,000.
I understand your point, I'm just reiterating the point of living within
Right.
budgets better,
Right.
that's all.
But-
Living close to the numbers, it's your, and I agree.
The one thing Kyle has to do though is he has to wear a Dolphins hat at the next meeting.
All in.
All right, so with
Is
that
that
said,
a no?
I'll do
said,
it. I'll do it for you.
is there a motion?
I'd make a motion to allocate the $48,500 towards the new computers.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of allocating the $48,500 to go
From the fund balance.
Okay. Okay,
Want me to say it again?
so yeah, do that again.
I make a motion to allocate the $48,500 from the fund balance towards the computers that Kyle's looking to purchase, or servers, whatever you want to call them.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion and a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. All right, next item, F. Review the current fiscal year 2019-2020 budget statement. Ron, any particular items you'd like to?
Well, there's a new format in the presentation of the fund, of the expenditure statements. If you look at Appendix A, you'll see that there's comparative spending for year-to-date between FY19 and FY20 for this point in time. And then Appendix B has August expenditures for the month of August only to give us a comparative analysis that will pinpoint exactly what's happening at certain points in the year and the month. There's a lot of information there, and I'm welcome to suggestions on how the format is presented. If it's easier to read, if it's more difficult to read, I can add and take away based on your suggestions. Going through the budget, you'll notice a couple of items that are underspending or overspending. I think I said last month that we're underspending the Department of Finance because last year at this time, payments to our auditor had been already made. We haven't made any payments this year. So we're under budget roughly $6,600. As far as election and registrars, we're underspending $7,000. The reason for that is because last year there were a few more primaries than the federal and state elections being held. Therefore, they were more active. This year, they're less active. They're spending less money in their operation. Let me see what else. As far as police department, there are overspending on overtime, roughly about $10,000. And the reason for that is because of the fluctuation in staff that they've had. They've lost a few officers. Therefore, they've had to increase the overtime for some of their officers. So that line item is overspending $10,000 more than they were last year at this point in time. Overall, they're overspending about $19,000. And a major contribution to that is the $21,000 in salary increases that they have that were subject to collective bargaining. The larger numbers have explanations behind them, and this is kind of how we're able to let you know what's going on within the town budget throughout the course of the year. Next month, we'll be able to provide September's finances and try and pinpoint some items that took place this fiscal year in comparison to last fiscal year, and try and give you an accurate picture of what's going on throughout the town. This is what trying to think of some other items that we could point out. So last year we had a town revaluation that we don't have this year. That cost us $32,000 year to date. We're not spending that this year, which is good information to understand why some of the numbers, or our bottom line, has a variance of roughly $100,000. So most of that comes from the debt interest and debt principal that hasn't been paid just yet. At this point in time last year, debt interest and debt principal was already paid. We're paying it at a later date, but over the course of the year, the same amount of money is roughly going to be spent based on the allocations made at the beginning of the fiscal year. If you have any questions, feel free to do so. As far as revenues go, based on the computer glitch that we had last month, we've been set back a little bit. The numbers that have been entered are what we've been able to get to at this point, playing a little bit of catch up because of the setback, but hopefully by next month we should have a depiction of the revenue similar to what we've done this month for expenditures. Trying to give you as much information as possible to give you,
I should say when's the number going to go under the number.
let me get back to that. I'll follow up with you on that.
Have we had any movement on the selling of the equipment that we put into the budget for the $40,000?
The highway department equipment, not yet. We are in the process of setting up the auction, and I have to get to, John Ravenel and I are going to meet up next week in order to set that up.
You have, on your revenue portion, you have to adjust your educational cost share number.
Okay.
Because it doesn't take into account the $114,000 taken out.
I promise you that most of the items on there, and I printed it out just to give you an idea of where we're standing in terms of being able to print the reports. So up until a few weeks ago, we weren't able to get that format. And once we have the format, we'll be able to make sure all the numbers are accurate. But just for the sake of continuity, say what you just said again.
The education cost share revenue number should be 15,049,019.
Okay, I'll circle back on that one as well. Now, I think, one more note, I think I put in the narrative in page 2. I have been giving an update in terms of expenditures for FY19. I think in 2 previous months, we recorded expenditures, percent being in it. Just to give you a more accurate depiction of what this chart states, it's giving you an idea of what we're actually using in the town budget. So if you subtract the school budget, debt service, debt interest, you'll understand what we're actually being capable of working with. So when you see the police budget operating on a roughly $2 million budget, you should understand that it's not a $12 million budget, and you have to subtract the debt service, debt interest from that as well to understand exactly what percentage of the budget they're using for that. So just to give you an overall scope of what we're talking about, the budget that the town used in FY19 is roughly $10.3 million. 2 months ago, the report stated that we had figured that we had used about 87% of that. Last month, we said we used about 88.9%. And as our accrued accounting practices fill in what expenses we were certain of for FY19, we're at 92.66%. Now, as the audit is complete, that number will change again, but it just goes to show you the progress that we're the trend analysis that's being made. We're below the average of the 3 previous years by 1%. So we are consistent with traditional practices and spending for the town of Plainfield.
I have a question.
Sure.
Scott just asked you a question, and your answer was, I'll get back to you.
I'll get back to the
Do
board.
you mean me?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's easy.
It's not feeling what we think.
I don't want to have to ask the same question.
The only thing, can we get next, and, because the audit's gonna be a ways away, right?
Mhm.
So when I'm reading this, I don't, and I get what you put on page 2, but can we get just 2019 broken down by itself? Because here you don't see, you get, so you,
So you want final FY19?
yeah, because here
Yeah,
you're
sure.
using the budget of FY20, so if we can have a separate one for FY19 and cut out the FY20 one. So basically get the, you know what I mean?
I apologize, Tony,
Yeah.
I called it all weird.
It's okay. I got grandkids, I know that.
I'm sorry, Tony. So I think what you're asking for is
Where do we stand?
final line item for FY19 instead of just the overall snapshot. That's fair.
Yeah, that's where we stand for FY19 now
Sure.
versus
Right.
Sure thing.
what we're doing against 20. I know, because I know the last meeting you said, well, the final numbers are gonna come out of the auditor, that's fine, but it'd still be nice to see exactly where we are.
Sure.
Like in the revenue and stuff like that, you know, sort of really versus what the budget was.
Absolutely. Not a problem.
Ron, where do we stand with the audit as far as having a company? I know we discussed that last week.
Yep, so the audit, we've had the initial introduction. We are starting to receive information back from our actuary, which we are in the process of passing on to the auditor. We just set up an online portal that will enable us to just It's basically an online checklist that will allow us to satisfy each request of the auditor remotely, as opposed to having them come on site and go through our files and hand them every single document that we need. That'll save a lot of time, and it's a much more efficient way of doing business. That was just set up, and we had our initial meeting last, I think it was 2 weeks ago, last week. And we are finalizing the contract. Their legal team is going over the contract, and that should be done either tomorrow or Monday.
What's the name of the?
Markham LLP. Nationally reputable firm. I would say they're comparable, it's just a step below KPMG or PricewaterhouseCoopers. In Connecticut, they have offices in Greenwich, New Haven, and I believe Hartford, West Hartford. The office that we're working out of, for the sake of geographic purposes, is Providence.
Okay. Any other questions or comments on the budget statement? No? All right. Moving on to number 5, citizens' participation.
Before we go there.
Yep.
Just want to clarify Scott's problem with the expenditures for copies.
Yeah.
I think anybody that wants a copy from the Board of Finance has to go through the chair, but it should be free. But you should know, if I want some copies, if he wants copies, so.
But, yeah, I can.
You have to okay it.
And I have no issue with that, but thus far, I mean, Scott's been very transparent there. I mean, anything that he's been looking into, either through.
Include Tom on any
Right, either through conversation in
Yeah,
person
but I mean,
or
to
via
make sure
email. Yeah,
it's a free.
yeah, no, I understand what you're saying, but I'm saying thus far, we haven't.
I mean, I think something, like, again, going back to C, we should see what the quotes were for the door for, we're the Board of Finance, we should be seeing that stuff.
You shouldn't have to make your own copies.
Right, they shouldn't have to
It
ask,
should be
it should be granted to us.
You
without
should just
having
ask
to-
the appropriate people and they should give them to you. But make sure the chairman knows that we're all
Yeah,
set.
like I said, Tom and I
So
talk all
nobody
the
can
time,
make an
and
expense.
now I send him an email.
How much we got in our account? We got anything?
Tom said he'd pay for it.
Yeah, I'll pay for the next one. All right, I now open the floor for citizens' participation. Yes, sir.
On the topic of signs that advertise for different primaries and voting in town, would it be possible to look into utilizing signs we have on public property in town already that are changeable? Or investing in signs through our fire department, police department, schools, that we could change for different primaries rather than having a stock of signs that we store somewhere that might get lost, destroyed, etc. Seeing that we have a vested interest, I know I've talked to you about it after a budget meeting, I know I've talked to Mr. Priscillo about it at our various RTC meetings, but I think it makes the town much more transparent.
Yeah, no, I think that's something we could definitely look into. I did want to ask Kathy, I know you said you're already making the move on signs, so what exactly are we looking at for signs thus far?
Yes, we are looking into, to make sure that we have plenty of signs for November 5th. Louisa and I have sat and met, and talked about the signs and the different locations in town to make sure each village has enough number. But to answer your question, one of the things that I wanted to reach out to the high school to see if we could use their board. And one of the things, another thing that I'm working on is the Warwick Fire Department has asked me, they received grant money to put up a sign, and it's similar to the school sign, it's lit, it's interchangeable, but because we use that for a polling station, they asked if we would be able to help them financially. So they're actually getting numbers together now for the sign, for the electricity, and to, because it is similar to the school sign, there's going to be cement work that needs to be done to put the sign into and to bring the power out. So they're working on getting numbers for that. They have received some grant money towards it, but again, because we use that fire department for a voting place, I think it would be good to help them get a sign out there.
Could the signs that are electronic possibly be solar, so that there would be no cost after the initial installation?
I
Or
can
minimal
talk
cost,
to,
because
I
we keep
can
making
talk
some-
to them about that, Travis.
Yeah. Thank you. Other citizen participation?
Sure. Kevin Cunningham, Ron, in the future, if I send something to you, I definitely is going to be sending a FOA request into the board, but I would just make one suggestion, just to give a call back to say, look, I want to make sure that you understand the scope, because the last one that you just replied back to me is 110 pages. That's not what I was looking for, but I appreciate that. But, you know, we could have narrowed that down and it could have gotten back a lot quicker, so.
But I think we've got a good process working, we're trying to figure
Okay.
out the best way forward.
Yep.
I think the 4-week suggestion is a good idea
Yep.
for that very purpose. So the correspondence will whittle it down, and I think going forward, we can figure out exactly how to,
All right. The other question here is on your documentation for the budget itself. Something that's kind of like jumps out at you would be, if you're taking a look at page 2, it's the second page of the police. So,
I'm saying that appendix A?
I'm sorry, yeah.
Okay.
So what jumps out at me would be, by the way, I like the format, I can read it, it's something I can actually jump at right away and say, okay, so the first item on there would be sick day incentive is already down to what, 4%? So is it possible to maybe highlight something that is way out of reference, I mean, way out of on average, to highlight it in red as well, because it would help you to figure out right away to say, and now, as an example, for this one, you could probably get some more background from the police chief or some documentation to say, this is why it's down so far.
That's funny, I had the same conversation with this morning.
Okay.
That's kind of the idea behind this. We get a little, when we can pinpoint items that are worth talking about,
Yes.
things like this, so you'd like a highlight of something?
If it would be in
Ask-
color, yeah.
Okay.
Because that would be, next one down is also the educational incentives down to 11%. I mean, if they utilized them already, that's fantastic, but, you know, it'd be worth it so that the board and public can understand why it was already, you know, to that level, already down that far. You know, anything, I mean, I think, I'm looking here at salaries, I think you're around 85% left over from on average for those. But something like that where it jumps down to 50% or less would be helpful to then get some background to it so you have an immediate answer as to why things are like that.
Absolutely, and there's some items that are expensed at certain points in time of the year, and that's
Right.
kind of, that's exactly what we're trying to highlight.
Like the other one that I would jump out at would be,
I'm having trouble pinpointing where you're going.
okay, yeah, down further,
This is appendix 1, page
2,
Okay.
right at the top, where the incentives were,
Yeah.
Okay.
and then where the education incentive was. So sick day incentive and education incentive are the two he's talked about so far.
right. I mean, it depends on the time of year when you're doing your educational, so I can understand that one, but the sick time is questionable. And on the computers, it's already down to 51%, so that means you've done some purchases already ahead of time to,
I can explain that one.
Yeah.
Typically, we have a lot of contracts that need to be done, and I let them do them all in July and August.
okay,
And they go for the rest of the year.
all right. I mean, it's
Yeah.
understandable.
So I will
Yep.
pay for those in July and August.
Right off the bat and get them
for the rest of
going.
the year.
Yep.
You know?
So, to go back to the sick day incentive, just, you know, and this is the whole purpose of having it set up like this. If you look at the FY19 year to date, it's
Mhm.
comparable to what we had expensed this year. So it's, in terms of trends and point in time in making these expenditures, we're on track.
Okay.
So, yeah, the 4% is alarming, yes, but it's not alarming if you understand exactly when we usually make those
Right.
payments.
As much as it's information for the board, it's also information for the public, so they can understand it.
Absolutely.
The other question I had was you put $48,000 in for purchase. Would that be with bid or without bid? Because I know there are specific items that you're purchasing, but you could still find multiple sites.
I'll only use procurement policy of the town.
All right. That was it?
You're talking about computers?
Yeah.
Okay.
The only way it wouldn't go out to bid is if I jump on, piggyback on a DAS or a GSA, because it's already been out to bid.
So then, in the future, is that something you would consider doing with the Board of Education so that we're all on the same, eventually on the same platforms?
Sometimes it doesn't work, sometimes DS is more expensive.
But it's still worth looking at it though.
Always worth looking at.
All right, thank you, Kevin. Other citizens' participation?
Dan Rill, Doherty Ave. As some of you guys here know, the town is still suing itself. As expected, the town's motion to strike the complaint against itself was denied. Kind of figured that would happen. It's it's probably like 15, 20 hours in the aggregate gone. So on, I think it's January 8th, the trial will happen where the town goes to trial against itself. I mean, I'm pretty sure whoever was behind the decision of the town suing itself, they probably thought they were doing something that needed to be done. But maybe to save 20 or 30,000 that can be used for computers, doors, something else, the town could probably sit down and, I hope, talk to itself rather than, you know, go to trial in January, 4 months out, maybe a decision will happen. Then it goes to the appellate court and then possibly the Supreme Court. So I'm just spitballing. Maybe we can work it out with ourselves, I hope. But they will be asking you for more money.
Yes.
To shed light on what Dan is talking about, I'm a member of the zoning board of appeals in town, and I had spoken to Mary Ann Shinati last week about it, and she said that that is the legal way to process that, and that is why it's being pursued that way. So, I don't know of any other way to do it, but that's the reason why it's going that way. I'm sorry it cost the town that much money, but that was the decision our board came to, and it was appealed uniformly by the planning zone board. So it's an appeal as if any citizen was doing it, but because it's our board, we have to pay the money. So maybe the voters will get out and vote for different people.
Sorry, I forgot to ask you this in the beginning. Can you just identify yourself for the camera? Because I realize we all here know you, but...
Travis Bolden, 116 New Road, Lucifer, Connecticut.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yes, Dan?
and I have to clarify this, but I'm sure a lot of people who are behind that decision think they did A, but if you read the complaint, it actually doesn't even describe what it is they're complaining about. So, for whatever reason or purpose, I think you guys should sit down with your attorney and say, no one looking at this from an outside opinion is gonna know what the problem is.
And one thing I did ask our acting finance director is that we can possibly at a future meeting get an update as far as where we stand with legal fees, besides what's here, I mean, an actual breakdown. That's something, he didn't have, of course, any information like that handy for tonight, but that's something we can research.
Oh, yeah, I mean,
research more.
because you do have.
As it pertains to Board of Finance.
Right, you know, because you do have a lot of litigation, there's ways to get this down, and I'm just not seeing any, maybe something different is going on, but from an outside person in the legal profession, looking from the outside in, a lot of this is getting unnecessary, and we need it for computers, doors, you know, textbooks. I mean, you know, and as far as like that case goes, that's currently where we're going to trial against ourselves, there's currently no stay. So regardless of what happens, there's no functional, yes, that's correct, that is the legal process.
Well, we live in a country with a law.
Okay, so Dan, your point has been noted.
Okay. I
And
mean-
just let me say,
Yeah.
that is why we have town attorneys, and that is why we pay town attorneys to keep the town of Plainfield's best interest.
To achieve nothing, understood.
Again, point has been noted. Other citizen participation? Yes, sir.
I have a lot to say, so if anyone wants to go first.
Please identify yourself for the camera.
Trav Harmon, Moosup, Connecticut. Question, I heard something I didn't hear before. Are we self-insured, the town?
Yes.
Are you guys aware of the mandate that was signed July 23rd by Lamont that by October 1st, 2020, new cybersecurity for insurance licensees, brokers, and so forth must be in effect?
I believe, yeah, we're way on that. Okay, we can double check on it.
Yeah, because it just came out on discussions and acquisitions and so forth. I discovered this, is Lamont signed it in July 23rd, required that within 15 months that data encryption, email backup, audits, et cetera, are to be implemented by October 1st, 2020. And that even shook me, and I didn't see that coming, but apparently it was, and it is what it is. Second question is, how often do we change our auditors in the town?
Well, this is the first time in 6 years we've had it. But general practices, unofficial general practices, to switch them out every 3 years.
That's what I was elaborating on, because there was in towns, I think there was one case in Minnesota where one treasurer stole $56 million over 20 years. And that's what I was asking, to make sure that they were in cahoots slash beds, slash whatever term you want to use, and they were friends, and so they began switching auditors, and that was one question. Thank you, every 3 years is
Yeah,
perfectly
it's
fine.
recommended by the Government Finance Officers Association that the auditors are switched every 3 years for, not just municipalities, but for businesses too, especially since Enron and Tyco scandals.
Okay, and my statement is, I have been working with Kyle and Kathy and so forth there, and we have received a taste of some of the funding, like the USDA. They had an event yesterday. They are gung-ho with trying to build these towns. So there are plans, and I believe Scott, and I don't know your name as well, but there are plans and things out there. But like any government, they're not going to give you anything. You got to reach out and get it. You got to work with them, and we're seeing that now, and they are doing it, trying it. And we've received through the police department USDA grant, and as of yesterday, Putnam received another grant, and Norwich and Willamette, they're just coming. So there is potential out there, but computers are the biggest, scariest thing right now with ransomware. In the last 9 months, 50 major cities got hit. And so that's what scares me the most, because I understand there is some apprehension. I understand there is some budgeting issues, but there will be a drop in the bucket when the average cost is sometimes 500, 2 million. Right now, city of Atlanta in Georgia only was ransomed for 2.5 million. They're now spending 22 million in remediation because they didn't want to pay it. So that's why I don't mean to be adversarial as a citizen, but this is scary. Don't hold back on this. This is something that, if we're arguing about pennies now, we'll be paying dollars later, and this is really bad. So that's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Other citizens' participation?
Art Cagney, Central Village. Back to the MBR. We spoke about the BOE tonight. Why is the MBR never reduced by the amount that is cut by the state? Ken mentioned it tonight. We could cut it 64,000. That's not true. We could cut it 114,000. And also Christy Haskell said that we're at MBR. We're not. And truthfully, minimum budget requirement would be the 114,000 less, because we're going to come up to the next budget season and they're going to say we're 114 shy of the MBR because you cut them 114,000. So how does this get corrected? That's my first question.
Yeah.
Do we know how it's, because you know it's going to happen. They're going to ask for that 114,000. We didn't, you know, because you cut.
Yeah, I think the person wanted to direct it towards that.
Yeah, well, I know, they left.
Well, no, so let me correct the point. So let me correct one thing for you, Lot. So 50,000 has already been cut.
But it wasn't reduced from the MBR.
Yes, it was, because it was 35,980,000.
Oh,
Now
okay.
it's 35,930,000.
Okay, I'm corrected, thank you.
If we chose to, we could ask the Board of Ed to cut another 64,000.
Okay,
The reason I didn't make a motion tonight was because the way the agenda was written, it does not say discuss and act. It is written down as update, so technically, following rules, we should not be asking for a motion. If we so choose to put it on another agenda, then we'd have to put it down as discuss and act.
okay,
So that's why, but
Okay.
we could go another 64,000 as was discussed tonight if we felt that that's where we wanted to go.
okay. I didn't realize you had already done 50,000.
Yep.
Okay. Second question is about solar. Do we know when it's going to be up and running?
I have not received any updates on that. And of course, I was going to ask Ken. I don't know if maybe, could you update us, Ron, on this?
I don't care about the BOE.
Yeah, no, I didn't know if he had heard anything about it. That's why I was asking.
Oh,
Yeah, so.
Yes.
Well, I don't care about their
ours is gonna be
buildings.
within a couple of weeks.
Okay.
because they didn't project any savings.
Okay. Well,
We did. How much did we project? 70, was it?
No.
For the year?
It was about 20,000.
Oh, was it that low?
Yeah.
It got changed, okay.
No, it was just the same.
Oh, wasn't it?
Yeah, we projected the same amount of savings.
Yeah,
But we had $20,000 for fiscal year 20.
okay.
Yeah, I think you said during the budget season, you said about a 30% savings in the present electric bill. That was the low part.
Correct, yeah.
Right.
I know it wasn't 70.
The number was 71, and it got reduced to 51.
Yeah.
Let's see if I have it here. I don't have But yeah,
That is-
$20,000 reduction, yeah.
For the year?
Yes,
Okay, that's all you were proposing for savings was 20,000 from the solar?
conservative estimate, yeah.
Okay.
That savings increases every year. The first year is the lowest.
Well, I understand.
That's how it works over a
I
20-year
I thought it was more.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and we also did all the LED upgrades. That's also reducing our energy use.
Yes. I did have a question about that. Because somebody brought up that all weekend the outside lights stay on here at the town hall. How come they didn't get put on a motion light or something?
Just for security, right?
Oh, okay. That's all.
Other citizen participation? Yeah.
Haley Smith, Plainfield. So I'm going to take this opportunity tonight, seeing how you're here, Tom, Kyle's here, and Kathy, you're here, and Dodie and Ron. There's been a reoccurring issue that's been going on for like the last 2 years that I've been attending meetings, where agendas are not properly posted. And it's not fair to the residents that go to the website, check for the agenda, try to stay on top of what's going on and participate at the meetings. Yesterday, I went on the agenda and last month's agenda was listed instead of for tonight's. I found out about it on Facebook thanks to Scott Charwood's posting. How, is this because our software? Is this because of our computers? What is going on? Why can we not follow the state statute of having our agendas properly up in a 24-hour timeline?
Okay, first of all.
If there's a what's the
First of
problem?
all,
All right, hold on, just, I will recognize Kyle to, of course, elaborate on this, but before he speaks, I just wanted to let him, and I think I already let him know, but just to let everybody know here, that the process that I follow is usually a week out, I email back and forth with Dodie as far as what are we looking at to put on the agenda. And at that point, so like this time last week, I was working on what I wanted to put on the agenda. Usually by either Thursday that previous week, and if not, for some reason, something got delayed or something, not that Thursday, definitely by the Monday of the week of the Board of Finance meeting, I have sent a confirmation email to Dodie by that Monday saying, this is what I want to see on the agenda. And so that is set on my part. From that point forward, I of course cannot speak as far as what happens, but my expectation is that once I send that confirmation email to the finance department saying this is what I want to see on, is that within, a very not too long time period, within 24 hours, it should be obviously updated on the actual document, certified by the town clerks, and then posted on the website. So to your point, I have gone personally to the website and noticed that on many occasions it wasn't. And in some cases, when I went back and saw when did I send the completed agenda that I approved and said I want to see, it could have been 2 days ago, 3 days ago, or just a day ago. So it's varied as far as the timing in between. And so I just want to make that clear as far as that's the process that I've been following in recent times. So I would now like to recognize Kyle to elaborate if you could as far as how the posting of the website.
Right, like, what's the
The town
process?
the town website, first of all, is a public service. There is no law that says I have to put it up on the website. You do know that, right?
But it has to be listed somewhere 24 hours.
At the town clerk's office, that is the law.
Okay, so.
And it's there, posted on the thing.
Okay, so I'll check there
Now,
for
the
that.
reason why it wasn't there, human error. I typed in a wrong number and it went to the wrong date.
Okay.
So I made a mistake.
This is happening, it's.
No, not every time, but this one, I made a mistake.
Okay.
Sometimes I don't get it in time.
But what is the?
Sometimes,
that's the-
because the website is not, it's not state law unless it's a special
But
meeting.
what is is there a process implemented?
Yes, they send it to me in an email as a PDF. I save the PDF on the server,
Okay,
and then I put it on the calendar.
okay.
And I try to get it there as soon as I can. I'm running in about 10 different directions, and human error does happen. So I made a mistake, I apologize for it.
Just to, I guess for continuity purposes, it is in the town clerk's office 24 hours in advance. We have a timestamp that says it was there the 16th, in the event that you can't access it online, you're definitely capable of finding it in the town clerk's office. But we will do what we can to make sure it's online.
We'll have a discussion about it later on. I just wanted to know what the process and the procedure was.
Well, and not only that, but I know the other issue that has been brought up before, just along the same line of posting on the website, is the timing of the meeting. I know for a long time, Board of Finance meetings were at 7. Of quite a while ago, we had moved them to 6:30, but sometimes they would still be posted at 7. And I know there were some people who came to, at 7 o'clock, and if we had a quick agenda, done by 6:50, that was a huge problem. So that also was noted as far as we need to make sure not only that the agenda is posted, but that we have the correct information, obviously the date and time. All right, other citizens' participation? Yep.
Matt Radant, Musa. I guess it's an unfortunate topic to follow up on, but the monthly budget statements, I think, would be a great addition to the regular postings on that town calendar or somewhere else on the website, so that they're at least accessible, and if people want to print them out on their own, they can go ahead and do that. Maybe you don't need to print too many going into the meeting if we're worried about the cost of making copies of paper. But is this something that can be reasonably put online on a monthly basis in conjunction with the posting for the Board of Finance meetings?
I don't see why not. That's common practice in a lot of municipalities, absolutely.
Because I know it can be difficult to try to read through a statement while the meeting is going on,
and if
for the sake of public questions.
Trying to get the information out as far in advance as possible for the Board of Finance. We could extend the same courtesy to constituents. This way you can come a little bit more prepared with more in-depth questions, which is the whole purpose of creating the format that we have now.
Right. The only challenge that I would see, Ron, and I know Scott has brought this up to me a couple of times, is that sometimes when the agenda gets sent out to us as the Board of Finance and when it gets posted, the report is not necessarily ready at that same time. And so there's been some times where we got the agenda, but we're still waiting on the report. So timing-wise, we might have to work on that a bit as far as trying to aim for maybe instead of the day before, maybe try to get it 2 days before.
Yes.
As far as having it ready, not just for the Board of Finance, we need time to review it, but like you said, also.
The priority goes to the Board of Finance, absolutely. I mean, you're going to receive it before anybody else. I'm just saying, if we're capable of sending it to them, at the least, we should follow up with the courtesy to the constituents. And in terms of getting the report out with enough time for you guys to read, absolutely. Doing my best to get it out as quickly as possible, and leave it at that.
Excellent. Second point was regarding the signage for elections, town meetings, and the sort. I know one big reason why Scott's donation of voting awareness signs was successful was probably because they were posted well in advance of the day of the vote. And I understand that a challenge with trying to coordinate that around the town is that we don't have the same days to vote. We can't just slap November 5th or the 7th and expect to reuse that sign. So in the spirit of either using signs that can have messages be edited and adjusted, maybe even for simple yard signs, which I can imagine the town is probably going to look in the direction of, they're the cheapest option, maybe keeping the format so that it can be changed as time goes on. Maybe keep the background white so you can just wipe out over a number.
And that's one of the things
and change it going forward.
Is that we'll be able to take the number off and change it, because the election will always be November, it's just the date that will change.
Right.
So that's exactly what we're doing.
It is always
But to that point, Kyle, one of the things I talked to Tom about was the 2 signs that should be bought should say referendum vote Monday, because then they can be put out on Tuesday, because then you get 6 days, and then there can be a general election vote Tuesday, so then they can be put out on Wednesday and they can be out for 6 days. You don't have to put dates. I always put the dates on the primary this time because
I know in the past, the reason why they put them out the day before.
they say vote today.
Is, right, but he's putting them out the following, the previous night usually. But we lost a lot of signs in the past. Kids taking them. So he said the longer they're out there, the more chance we're gonna have of losing them.
I'm happy to say I got all 50 signs back.
Awesome.
All right.
So,
If the youth is excited about voting, then I'm all for it. So. That's good news. As far as the grant, the USDA grant goes, just my own 2 cents. I feel like if it could have been brought to the Board of Finance, then that was obviously a preferable option, simply in the spirit of transparency. And when somebody says transparency, it's not to assume nefarious wrongdoing behind closed doors otherwise, but it's to make sure people understand the process that's going through, or that the town is going through in order to get this ironed out. I happen to agree that if you have a contingency fund it seems a little backwards to be doing line item transfers, taking general fund dollars, even if you're getting reimbursed, to go backwards into the contingency fund. Those are cheap anyway. So that's just my 2 cents. I think I would have preferred to see that brought to the Board of Finance personally. I don't think that there was ever a real issue of whether or not that would get approved. I think if from seeing online, seeing town discussion about it, I think most people were on board with it. So I don't think, other than a technical path that was legally advised and viable, I think there could have been a much more easy way to do it that kept everybody involved and kept all the information right out there, instead of us having to explain ourselves 3, 4, or 5 times to different people about why it was being done a certain other way. And final point, as far as the contingency fund goes and FOIA requests, I think that if the issue is truly going to come down to the cost of copies that the public may be requesting, if there's a legitimate expense out of the contingency fund, it's probably going to be for the copies to comply with freedom of information requests. I think that's probably where all of those should come. I don't think there's any reason why a citizen of their respective town should be expected to pay for access to information that, on its face, given the situation involving an FOI, probably should have been available and communicated in the first place.
And a lot of that information was. A lot of times it has been communicated, it's just people want it so that they can see it, so.
But if there's a right use for the contingency fund, I think FOI compliance might be a good one. You can track that one pretty close too. You can create a little compliance index if you want. Have some fun with it. But that's all I got.
Thank you, Matt. Other citizen participation? Yes.
I got a question. Why are we making copies? Why can't we just PDF them? Just email them to the person that wants it.
Take your notes.
Yes.
I mean, if you're charging 50 cents a copy, why can't we just make them email them? Make them print them.
How long will it take the employee to scan them and email them?
Okay, I don't know, I'm asking.
Well,
Are we already scanning the stock?
Took me 3 hours to make copies of the ones that I just did last month.
Okay. Just a question, I was like.
No, I agree, from the
Yeah.
time, but it's the same thing. Scan them all, I can copy them all.
All right, so Sean, just so what I just heard from Ron is that he's gonna actually look into that, and we'll follow up with you on that as far as what are the rules.
I was just curious, because you know, like, Scott wants copies of something, why are we gonna print copies? Why not just send him a file and you can look at them?
It's different for Scott because he's a member of the Board of Finance.
Right, I understand that.
But
Yeah,
but what I'm
but-
trying to say is, I don't know what the rules are associated with FOIA. So there may be a legal reason why they want people to pay for FOIA copies and then prevent people from constantly asking for FOIA requests and then have maybe some type of association with their desire for it. But we'll double check on that.
So the 50 cents is a FOIA's fee?
I don't know, that's what I'm saying, we're gonna double check.
FOIA says that's the most that you can charge.
But can I just say something real quick?
Yeah.
Anybody can come into
Hold
town.
on, Kyle, I'm trying to recognize you.
Naomi said, I came into the town hall to look at a FOIA request that Kathy provided, and we were accommodated with that. We could have sat there and snapped pictures with our phone if we wanted to, and read through it. So, I mean, there are other ways if you can't afford the email, the copies. I mean, that was accommodated.
I don't think it's about,
Because if it's 350 pages, Ron, the person that's FOIAing it, do they really want all 350 pages? I mean,
Can I say in response to that?
Sure.
That is an issue with FOIA requests. I can tell you that we were asked for a FOIA request over a year ago. The tape sat in the town clerk's office, and it did not get picked up till this year. So you have people that ask for FOIA requests who really ask for them, but they don't ever follow through with them. So, you know, it takes time out of people's days. Kyle, I think you just said how many hours it took you to gather all the information, you know, so.
yeah, there's gotta be some type of check for people just submitting FOIA requests one after the other, bogging us down with doing nothing but answering FOIA requests. That's not fair to us. But, I mean, I also believe there's a fee for snapping pictures on your phone if you were to come in.
There is, but you can, so there's a fee for using your phone.
Right.
But you can take as many pictures as you want. It's a set fee.
Right.
And you take the pictures.
So there seems to be a lot of strings attached to FOIA requests that we will hammer out to answer both of your questions.
So when I came in for FOIA, I had to pay $20 per electronic. It was an appointment towards the end of the day, so I was only there for like an hour. And I had a scanner, but if I wanted to use 2 scanners, I had to pay $20 for the other scanner as well. One per electronic was $20.
All right. This is, how long ago was this?
November,
last year election.
I may have a solution that would satisfy both sides. It's Adobe DocuSign. It's run by mortgage companies, lawyers, everyone. And Dan, you probably are familiar with this.
Yep.
So what ends up happening is you satisfy the electronic one, and to meet the compliance for the state is with DocuSign, you can't see the documents until you said that I am the legitimate person. You submit your email to the town sends you a bill for $20 or tax, whatever, figure it out, that's not my problem. But what ends up happening is that to look at the document, you have to sign that I am the citizen, it unlocks the pages, and you're able to see it, print it, or use it as you see fit, meeting your requirement to have it, and then meeting the requirement to pay for it, and then it's all electronic, saving paper, toner, power, because it's not just his time, it's every subset of everything else acquired with it. But if you can condense it, reduce, close the loop, and then make it as electronic and as simple and as legal, it complies with making sure that the person who requested is the actual person signing off, and town gets paid or charged or whatever the scenario is, and then both sides get the documents, they submit them, it's done in a more timely fashion, and then there's a traceability, because you can log into your Adobe account and actually see that somebody isn't just doing FOIA abuse, just to shotgun them out and just, okay, these 15 people have read it and they've received it. And so if I didn't receive the email, well, look at here, here's the log that shows you did, and then it just shuts it down.
So, Trav, my response to that would be, because Ron, at one of the earlier FOI comments, said that he was actually going to double check as far as some of the rules and regs regarding that.
So it might be a moot point.
So, right, but what I'm saying is, maybe you can send him an email, certainly, and say, this is the option I was talking about, at the Board of Finance meeting, and then he can double check and see if that's even, legal. Yeah. So.
But the other thing is all documents are supposed to be made available except for personnel documents anyways. See, the only document that anybody in the public can't see is personnel files. So if stuff's in the town clerk's office, because I used to do real estate, you go in there, you pull out any real estate transaction, all town transactions are supposed to be available open to the public. So they should all be in the town clerk's office anyways. That's why I don't understand, the reason people do FOIAs is because they can't find the stuff in the town clerk's office. That's how FOIAs happen. They go in, I want to see, whatever. I want to see the USDA grant. It should be in there. So the reason people file FOIAs is because it's the things that they're looking for are not open to the public. And the only thing that's not open to a public in the government is personnel. So everything should be in that office anyways. There should be nothing that's not in that office.
Emails.
Yeah,
Dan?
Yeah, just really quick, Adobe is great, by the way. It's all that in a bag of chips. I personally have a big multi-scanner copier. I couldn't sell it for $10 at a tag sale. It does about 200 pages scanned like a minute. I can do double-sided. I can put it in Adobe DC. I can even paginate thousands of pages of files. It's great.
It looks like it's legal.
Any other citizen participation? No? Okay, then I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, a motion is second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? We are adjourned.